The little girl in the cold snow drifted down slowly, covering the sidewalks in a thin white blanket. Christmas Eve in the city was usually bright and alive with laughter. Shops glowing with warm lights, families rushing home with gifts tucked under their arms, the sound of bells ringing from street corners. It was a night of joy for many, but not for everyone. Keanu Reeves walked quietly down one of the quieter streets, his hands deep in his coat pockets. The world knew him as a movie star, but here in the quiet, he was just a man. He preferred nights like this, away from the lights and attention, where he could simply walk, think, and feel the air of the city. His steps slowed when he noticed something strange in the alley near a dumpster. At first, he thought it was just a pile of blankets, but then he saw a small movement. A shiver, his heart clenched as he stepped closer, and there, curled up on a thin piece of cardboard, was a little girl. No older than 7 or 8, her small body was wrapped in an old sweater that didn't fit, her arms tucked tightly around herself, her face pressed against her knees. She was asleep, but her breathing was shallow, uneven, her tiny lips trembling from the cold. Keanu froze for a second, his heart heavy. Christmas Eve, and a child was lying in the trash. He crouched down slowly, his voice low and soft. "Hey there, are you all right?" The girl stirred, her eyes opening slightly. Fear flickered across her tired face. She pressed back against the wall, whispering hoarsely, "Please don't take me away." Keanu's chest tightened. He raised his hands gently, showing he meant no harm. "I won't hurt you, I promise. You're safe, I just want to help." She shook her head weakly, her voice barely a whisper. "They said not to trust strangers." Keanu nodded softly, his voice calm. "They're right. You should. Be careful, but it's too cold for you out here. You'll get sick, maybe worse." The girl's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "I don't have anywhere else to go." Those words cut deeper than the freezing air. Keanu pulled off his scarf, gently placing it over her small shoulders. The girl flinched at first, then slowly relaxed, feeling the warmth. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She hesitated before whispering, "Lila." "Lila," he repeated gently, the name fragile on his lips. "That's a beautiful name, Lila. How long have you been out here?" Her eyes dropped to the ground. "A while, I don't know. Since Mama left." Her tiny voice broke on the last word. Keanu's breath caught, his heart aching. A child alone, abandoned, sleeping among trash on Christmas Eve. He couldn't imagine the fear she carried. "Where's your mama, Lila?" he asked carefully. The girl shook her head quickly, tears falling. "She said she was coming back, but she didn't. I waited and waited, but she never came back." Keanu felt a heaviness settle in his chest. He wanted to say something, but no words could erase what she had endured. Instead, he offered his hand, steady and warm. "Come with me, just for tonight. I'll make sure you're safe and warm. You don't have to stay out here." Lila looked at his hand, hesitating, her small body trembling. Trust was not easy when the world had already broken her trust once. She whispered, "How do I know you're not lying?" Keanu's voice softened even more. "Because I know what it feels like to be alone, and I wouldn't want anyone, especially not you, to feel that tonight. You don't have to believe me yet. Just let me prove it." The silence stretched, the snow falling around them, then slowly, Lila reached out her small hand and placed it in his. Her fingers icy cold. Keanu wrapped his coat around her small frame, lifting her gently into his arms. She was so light, too light, as though hunger had carved into her bones. She buried her face in his shoulder, whispering, "Please don't leave me." His voice was steady, quiet but sure. "I won't, Lila, I promise." As he carried her toward the street, the Christmas lights in the distance flickered like stars. Yet behind their glow, the truth of her story would soon unravel, a truth far darker and more painful than he could have imagined, and one that would test both of them in ways they weren't ready for. Because sometimes the greatest miracles come hidden in the most broken places. And what Keanu had stumbled upon that night was more than just a lost child. It was the beginning of a journey that would change both of their lives forever. A fragile trust, The streets glistened under the snow as Keanu carried Lila through the cold night. Her small head rested against his shoulder, her breath shallow but steady. She clutched the edge of his coat as if it was the only safe thing in the world. His steps were careful, his heart heavier with each one. He walked past glowing windows where families gathered around Christmas trees. The sound of laughter spilled into the night, but in his arms was the reminder that not every child had warmth. Not every child had someone to tuck them in. Finally, he reached his apartment, simple and quiet. He rarely decorated, but this year a small tree stood in the corner with a few lights. He had bought it on impulse, never knowing why. Now, seeing Lila's wide eyes glance at it as he set her down gently inside, he understood. She stood nervously in the doorway, her thin legs shaking. She looked around the room with cautious eyes. "Is this your house?" she asked softly. Keanu nodded, his voice calm. "Yes, it's where I live. You're safe here." Lila hugged herself tightly, the scarf he had wrapped around her still clinging to her small frame. "It's warm," she whispered, almost in disbelief. He walked to the kitchen, pouring her a glass of water, then bringing it back. "Here, drink slowly." She took it with trembling hands, sipping carefully, as though she was afraid it might disappear. Keanu watched her closely, his chest tightening at the thought of how long she had been hungry and cold. "Lila," he said gently, "when was the last time you ate?" She lowered her eyes, her voice faint. "Yesterday, someone gave me half a sandwich on the street." Keanu's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice soft. "You don't have to worry about food anymore. I'll make you something now." He moved to the kitchen again, pulling out bread, eggs, and a bit of cheese, nothing fancy but warm, simple, and real. He cooked quietly, aware of her small eyes watching his every move, as if she still couldn't believe this was happening. When he placed the plate in front of her, she hesitated, looking up at him. "Is it really for me?" His throat tightened. He nodded. "Yes, Lila, all for you." She picked up the fork slowly, eating small bites at first, then faster, hunger overtaking her. Keanu didn't stop her, only refilled her water, letting her eat until she leaned back. With a sigh, her face softening after a long silence, she whispered, "Why are you helping me?" Keanu sat across from her, his eyes gentle. "Because no child should have to spend Christmas on the street, and because you matter, Lila, even if the world has made you feel like you don't." Her lips trembled, tears filling her eyes. "Mama used to say that too." Before she left, Keanu leaned forward, his voice calm. "Can you tell me about her?" Lila hesitated, her small fingers twisting the edge of her sweater. "Her name was Emily. She was kind, but she cried a lot. She said she was sorry. Then one night she told me to wait by the trash bins. She said she would come back with food, but she never did." The weight of her words hit Keanu like a blow. His heart ached for the little girl, for the mother who must have been broken enough to leave her child. He didn't know the full truth yet, but he could feel it. There was more to the story, something darker hidden behind Lila's small voice. "Lila," he said softly, "I can't promise to fix everything, but I promise you won't be alone anymore." Her wide eyes lifted to his, searching, testing, and then slowly, she nodded, whispering, "Can I stay here? Just for tonight?" Keanu's voice was steady. "Yes, as long as you need." Later, as he tucked her into the couch with blankets, she clutched his scarf close to her chest, whispering into the quiet, "You're not going to leave, right?" He sat beside her, his hand resting gently over hers. "No, Lila, I'm not leaving." She drifted to sleep, her small body finally relaxed. Keanu sat watching her, his thoughts heavy. Christmas Eve had brought him something he never expected, and he knew this wasn't just a moment of kindness. It was the beginning of a responsibility, a truth waiting to be uncovered. Because somewhere in the shadows of the city, the reason Lila was left behind still waited, and when it came to light, it would stun him in ways he could never imagine. The secret in her eyes morning came slowly, the soft light of winter slipping through the curtains. Keanu had fallen asleep in the chair beside the couch, his coat draped over him. He woke when he heard a faint sound, a small whisper. He opened his eyes and saw Lila already awake, sitting up quietly, holding his scarf in her lap. She looked at him with wide, cautious eyes. "You really didn't leave," she said softly, as though she still didn't believe it. Keanu stretched, offering her a faint smile. "I told you I wouldn't, and I keep my promises." She hugged the scarf tighter, then looked toward the window where the snow still fell. "I used to love Christmas. Mama and I would sing songs even if we didn't have presents." Her voice broke. "But now it just hurts." His chest tightened. He walked to the kitchen, preparing oatmeal and warm milk. When he placed the bowl in front of her, she whispered, "Thank you," and began eating slowly. Keanu sat across from her, studying her small face, the shadows beneath her eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly. "Lila," he said gently, "I want to help you, but to do that I need to understand, is there anyone else? Family? Friends of your mother?" She froze, her spoon pausing midair, her gaze dropping to the bowl. Silence stretched. Then her voice came, small and shaky. "There was a man." Keanu's breath caught, his voice calm but steady. "What man?" Lila's lips trembled. "He used to come to the place where Mama worked. She would tell me to hide when he came. One night he got angry. Mama grabbed my hand and we ran. After that, she was scared all the time." Tears slid down her cheeks. Then she left me by the trash, I think. I think she didn't want him to find me." Keanu's jaw tightened, his mind racing. This wasn't just abandonment. It was escape. The little girl wasn't just lost. She was hiding from something dangerous. He reached across the table, gently taking her hand. "You're safe now, Lila. No one is going to hurt you." Her eyes lifted to his, filled with fear. "But what if he finds me?" His voice was steady, unshakable. "Then he'll have to go through me first." The promise in his tone made her eyes widen. She nodded slowly, as if clinging to his words like a lifeline. Later that day, Keanu took her outside, bundled in a proper coat he had bought that morning. They walked past streets where children played in the snow, their laughter echoing. Lila watched quietly, her small hand gripping his. "I don't remember the last time I felt like them," she whispered. Keanu squeezed her hand gently. "You will again, I promise." As they walked, a woman approached, her eyes widening in shock. "Oh my God, it's Keanu Reeves," she exclaimed, pulling out her phone. Keanu smiled politely but kept walking, shielding Lila slightly. The woman's camera followed, and soon others began to notice. Voices whispering, flashes appearing. Lila clutched his coat tightly, panic filling her eyes. "They're looking at me," she whispered, her body trembling. Keanu leaned down, his voice calm in the chaos. "Ignore them, Lila. They don't matter. Only you matter." But in his heart, worry bloomed. Attention was dangerous, especially when a shadow from her past might still be searching. When they returned to the apartment, Lila sat quietly on the couch, hugging her knees. Keanu sat beside her, speaking softly. "I know the world feels scary right now, but you're not alone anymore. We'll face whatever comes together." Her eyes filled with tears, and for the first time she leaned against him, whispering, "You feel like home?" His throat tightened, his arm wrapping gently around her small shoulders. "Then home is where you'll stay." But as he held her, a thought gnawed at him. Who was the man Lila feared? And what would happen if he discovered she was no longer hidden in the shadows? The truth, when it came, would not only stun him, it would test how far he was willing to go to protect a child who had already suffered too much. The shadow returns. Snow still fell in soft flakes outside, but inside Keanu's apartment the air was heavy. Lila had begun to smile a little more, eating proper meals, sleeping without shivering. Yet even as she laughed softly at the small Christmas lights on the tree, Keanu could see the shadow in her eyes, the fear that had not left that evening. While she rested on the couch, Keanu stepped into the hallway to take a quiet call. A friend from a local shelter answered. "You say you found a child alone?" "Keanu, this is serious. She'll need official help." "Do you know if she's reported missing?" Keanu's voice was low, steady. I don't want her lost in the system. She's already terrified. I need to be sure she's safe before strangers. Take over, his friend sighed. Just be careful. If there's someone dangerous behind this, they might be looking. As Keanu hung up, his gut told him the warning was true. When he returned inside, he found Lila holding a small worn photo she had pulled from her pocket. It was creased and faded, of a young woman with tired eyes but a warm smile. Lila's voice was barely a whisper. This was Mama. Keanu sat beside her, studying the photo. She loved you, he said softly. Lila nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. I think she left me to protect me, but what if she's gone forever? Keanu placed a gentle hand on hers. We'll find out the truth together, Lila. You won't face it alone. But even as he spoke, a knock came at the door, sharp and forceful. Lila's entire body stiffened, her eyes wide with panic. Don't open it, she whispered, clutching his arm. Keanu moved quietly to the door, his voice calm. Who is it? A rough voice answered. Landlord. Keanu opened the door a fraction. The man stood there nervously. There was someone outside asking questions about a little girl. Said he was family. Looked angry. I didn't tell him anything. But you should be careful. Keanu's jaw tightened, his tone low. Thank you. He closed the door, turning back. Lila was trembling. It's him, she whispered. The man who used to come for Mama. Keanu knelt down, his eyes level with hers. Listen to me, Lila. No one will take you, not while I'm here. Her small hands clutched his shirt, her voice breaking. Promise? He held her gaze, steady and unshakable. I promise. That night, Keanu didn't sleep. He sat by the window watching the snow-covered street, every shadow making his muscles tense. He thought about his life, about how fate had brought this child into it, and about the silent vow growing stronger in his chest. He would protect her no matter what. The next day, he took Lila to the Christmas market, hoping to give her a moment of normal joy. She clutched his hand, wide-eyed at the lights, the music, the smell of roasted chestnuts. She smiled for the first time, a real smile as she pointed to a small wooden angel ornament. Can I have it? She asked shyly. Keanu bought it and tied it to the little tree at home, Lila whispered. It's for Mama, so she knows we're waiting for her. But as the night grew late, Keanu noticed a man standing across the street watching, his coat, collar high, his face half hidden. The moment their eyes met, the man turned and disappeared into the snow. Keanu felt the truth settle cold inside him. This wasn't over. The shadow had found them, and soon the past Lila carried would crash into their fragile peace. The truth revealed, the following morning, the city felt quieter, but Keanu knew it was only the silence before a storm. He made breakfast for Lila, pancakes shaped like stars, trying to keep her smile alive. She giggled softly when the syrup dripped, too much. Yet behind her laughter, her eyes darted often to the window as though expecting the shadow to return. After breakfast, Keanu sat down, his voice calm but serious. Lila, if we're going to keep you safe, I need to know everything. About that man, anything you remember. She hugged her knees, her voice trembling. He used to yell at Mama. He said she owed him money. A lot of money. She worked long nights just to pay him, but it was never enough. When he got angry, she grabbed me and we ran. After that, she was scared all the time. She said if he found us, he'd take me away. Keanu's chest tightened, anger burning beneath his calm. This wasn't just a random man. This was someone who had been hunting them. Do you know his name? He asked gently. Lila hesitated, whispering. His name was Victor. The name lingered like poison in the air. Keanu leaned closer, his voice steady. Lila, listen to me. Victor won't hurt you, not while I'm here. But that night, the danger became real. Keanu had stepped out briefly to buy groceries, leaving Lila with a trusted neighbor for just a moment. When he returned, he saw a figure near the building entrance, a man with sharp eyes and a cruel smirk. The same one who had been watching from across the street. You've got something of mine, the man said coldly, blocking Keanu's path. Keanu's voice was calm but firm. She's not yours. She's a child who deserves safety. If you come near her again, you'll regret it, Victor sneered. Her mama made a deal, and when she couldn't pay, she left the girl as collateral. She belongs to me now. Keanu's blood ran cold, fury rising. A child is not collateral. You will never touch her. Again. Before the argument could escalate, voices rose behind them. Neighbors stepped out, recognizing Keanu. Cameras appeared from curious onlookers. Victor cursed under his breath and slipped away into the night, but not before hissing. This isn't over. When Keanu entered his apartment, Lila ran into his arms, shaking. Was it him? Did he find me? Keanu held her tightly, his voice steady. Yes, but he won't take you, not ever, I swear it. That evening, as Lila slept curled on the couch, Keanu sat at the table, staring at the small wooden angel ornament she had hung on the tree. He realized this wasn't just about shelter anymore. This was about justice, about protecting innocence from cruelty. He picked up his phone and made a call, his voice low but determined. I need help. There's a man named Victor, and he's not going to hurt this child again. The next days blurred into quiet tension. Keanu arranged meetings with people who could help, lawyers, child advocates, people who could make sure Lila wouldn't vanish into a system that might fail her. But the shadow of Victor still loomed. One night, Lila woke from a nightmare. Crying out, Keanu rushed to her side. Sitting on the edge of the couch, she clutched his hand. Promise me you won't let him take me. Promise me I'll never go back. His eyes softened, his voice steady and unbreakable. I promise, Lila. No matter what happens, you are mine to protect now. Her tears slowed, her breathing steadied, and for the first time she whispered, You feel like my papa. The words pierced his heart, not with pain, but with a deep ache of love and responsibility. He brushed her hair gently, whispering, Then I'll be your papa, for as long as you need me. But outside, in the dark corners of the city, Victor was already plotting his next move, and the battle for Lila's future was far from finished. A Christmas miracle. The city streets glowed with Christmas lights, but inside Keanu's apartment, the air was tense. Lila decorated the small tree carefully, hanging the wooden angel she loved most, her little hands shaking just a bit. She looked up at him and whispered, Do you think Mama can see this? Keanu crouched down beside her, his voice gentle. Yes, Lila, I think she can. But deep inside, he carried the weight of a truth still hidden, because the call he had made brought news. Lila's mother, Emily, had been found, alive but weak. She had been hiding, working under false names, terrified of Victor, unable to return for her daughter. Keanu was told she had begged for help, but no one had listened until now. The knock on the door that evening was soft, different from the sharp sound that had once made Lila tremble. Keanu opened it carefully, and there she was. Emily, thin, pale, but her eyes filled with tears the moment she saw the small figure at the tree. Lila. Her voice cracked, trembling. The little girl froze, the ornament slipping from her hand. Then she turned, her eyes wide. Mama? In an instant she ran, throwing herself into her mother's arms, both of them crying, clinging to each other, whispering over and over, I missed you. I'm sorry. I love you. Keanu stood back, his chest tight, his eyes wet. Watching the reunion unfold, he had promised Lila safety, but he had never imagined being able to give her this. Her mother back. Emily looked up at him, her voice breaking. You saved her. You saved us. Keanu shook his head softly. She saved herself by holding on. I only stood beside her. But the joy of the moment was soon shadowed when a harsh knock rattled the door. Lila stiffened, clutching her mother. Keanu's eyes hardened. He opened the door to find Victor again, flanked by two men, his voice cruel. You think you can hide her from me? She belongs to me. Before Keanu could speak, police lights flashed across the street. Officers swarmed. His earlier call had worked. Evidence gathered. Testimonies prepared. Victor's threats caught on recording. The officers stepped forward, cuffing him as he shouted curses. Dragged away into the night, Lila buried her face against her mother. Keanu closed the door firmly, turning back to them, the weight lifting. Emily held her daughter close, then looked at Keanu. Her eyes filled with gratitude. We would have been lost without you. I'll never forget what you did. Lila pulled free from her mother just long enough to run into Keanu's arms, her voice clear and full of trust. You promised you wouldn't leave me, and you didn't. Keanu hugged her tightly, whispering, And I never will. That Christmas night, the three of them sat by the little tree, the wooden angel glowing softly under the lights, laughter mixing with quiet tears. Outside, the city carried on, unaware of the miracle that had unfolded in one small apartment. But for Lila, the girl once sleeping on trash, Christmas was no longer about fear. It was about hope, family, and the kindness of a stranger who had become her protector. And for Keanu, it was a reminder that sometimes the greatest roles he would ever play weren't on a screen, but in the quiet moments where love, courage, and kindness could change a life forever.